That's it. Come on.
Graham.
Okay. I can't follow the link either on my. I have to re-put the meeting password and everything in. I don't know why.
So is that from the Facebook one?
It's it's on my phone. It says something about my server not being supporting it or something, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah.
I might just I'll send him the link again as well, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really annoying that we have to do this, but I looked again into paying for it, but it's like £120, isn't it? So don't want to spend that, really.
No.
Yeah. Oh, don't know.
Nice to hear the name Ozzy Clark, by the way, got to be said.
Pardon?
Nice to hear the name Ozzy Clark mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did a whole. I was a resident artist at Manchester Costume Gallery.
Oh yeah.
And we had a lot of it, quite a few pieces there. Absolutely loved it. You know, it's one of those. When you said that, I thought, oh,
yeah,
brilliant.
I was at university with his nephew, and he looked exactly like.
Really?
Yeah, really strange.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
Oh, I can't have lost Graham. I have to wait.
Has he become a grandfather again yet?
Yeah, I think last Friday was it? I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he's not distracted by that.
No.
Apology.
I'll text him quickly. Oh yes, no, that's. Oh. Yes. No, I can't. I'm in a meeting. Okay, bye. Sorry, there was a daughter. I thought it's urgent if she's out and about on her own. You never know, don't you? You don't want to not answer a call. Verify update mode. It was last week. Hold on. I'll ring Graham quickly, or rather than text him, might be easier. Okay, no answer. Shall we just start and he can join while we go along? Okay, Lisa. Question number 3. Yes, as always, because it's kind of still lockdown and everybody was talking about the new normal, and I like this discussion about what is the new normal and what do you think the new normal will be, if indeed there is such a thing as normal.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, for me, I feel that this has been a really special sort of amount of time that I've kind of taken outside of. Oh, you've disappeared, actually, Marianne.
I have.
Oh yeah, no, you come back.
Ah.
That's fine. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there. I mean, I feel that, and I've spoken to a lot of my friends, and they feel the same, that their life goes very, very quickly and is very, very rushed, and there's lots and lots of things that they're doing all the time. But you know, they don't get that much sort of downtime and actual quality time just to sort of be, you know, and enjoy sort of, you know, thinking and being creative, and I feel like I'm definitely going to make more time for myself instead of getting involved in, I've got to do this and got to do that, and, you know, just even like household things when I'm at home, and rather than saying, right, I'm going out to my yurt and I'm going to sit, you know, I'm going to spend hours in there. I mean to do that, and then I just get, you know, there's washing and all those things, and then I go out and do errands and things, and you just you have to make time, don't you? I think that's what I mean, work-wise, I don't know quite. We're not back into the prison yet. It's still locked down. It looks like, I've heard on Monday, that we're not going to be face-to-face teaching till around November, which is unbelievable. But we will go back in eventually, but just to send things out to the wings, and not actually, we won't be seeing any of the lads at all for a very long time. So it's quite going to be completely different way of, you know, they've actually got phones in their cells now.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so we will be apparently delivering some kind of qualification over the phone to them. So we'll be ringing them up in their cell and sort of asking them what they've done and advising them on what they need to do to get the qualification, because we teach city and guilds. So it'll be really interesting and a completely new sort of way of working.
So, when you explained that to me earlier on, this idea of having a phone, is that so they can contact the family, I guess? How does that? Yeah. How does that? Do they have to pay for that, or can the families ring in? How does it work?
I don't know, actually, Graham. I'm not sure, because that's all happened since we've not been on site. So I have no idea.
You know, they manage it really.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting, because when I came to see you guys in the prison, the one big thing was about smuggling phones in. So now to think that it's actually everybody's got one, because you told me all these amazing stories about the length that people go to smuggle a phone in, some of which aren't very kind of pleasant.
These telephones, phones, as in non, you know, just tap in and ring rather than Androids?
Well, I'm not sure. Like I say, I've not been on site. Obviously there's going to be no internet connection or anything like that. But that I don't know what they're like, actually. I've just heard that they've got phones, so it must be a very basic call phone with they're probably like really, I don't know, like based on the very old-fashioned like Nokia kind of like little phones. You know, I don't know whether they can text people on them, or I just don't know, really. It's fascinating. I can't wait to find out.
I mean, I said that primarily because thinking of moving forward with, you know, education, and, you know, a lot of courses going online, and having that mix of online and some one-to-one in various ways moving forward. So I just wondered, you know, I was just curious actually what type of phone, or would there be that facility in there? But obviously, you know, that's beyond.
Just far too many security, you know, complications with a, you know, a proper mobile. It will be just a basic thing, I would imagine, won't it? I mean, there's normally two phones on every wing, and so you have to queue up to use those, you know. So just that having that direct contact from your pad is a step forward, I think, in this time. You know, this is an outlet for them. But the smuggling, it's incredible. The smuggling. There's some. We talk all day about some of the stories I've heard. But they have a boss chair. They have a boss chair in the prison, which is like a big, very geometric plywood chair. But inside, it's got a lot of electronics. And all the lads, when they first come into the prison, they have to sit in the boss chair, and it runs a current through them. And if they've got a mobile phone inside them, it lights all like so. Like a Christmas tree. So the boss chair tells you if you've got a phone inside you.
And didn't you tell me that they sometimes hide two of them up a certain place? So if they find one, just like you stole the other one. Anyway.
There's a lot of lads now making a living who are just going out committing petty crime and going in full of drugs and full of phones, swallowing them and taking them up inside them, and that's how they're just going for a few days, get rid of all the stuff, and they may come out with a few grand. And that's how a lot of lads are making a living now, just doing that.
It's fascinating. Sometimes security lay everything out. They have like a day where we come in and we go into this big room and they lay everything and label it all, what they found in plastic bags, and it's fascinating. And as artists, we're they're going like, move along quickly, move along, and we're like going, oh, this is amazing. And the security are a bit like, ooh, like, why are they looking so much at those? But the phones, the size of the phones that you can actually get on the black market is incredible. They're so tiny, aren't they, Graham? That they've retrieved from lads in there.
And lads who don't take drugs, they're often paid to sell the urine to drug users. So they'll be able to sell a vial of their own piss that somebody else can use and carry around with them in a little vial inside the pants. So when they get a drug test, just pour this clean pee into a vial, and then they've got a clean drug test. Well, they probably pay it's only about £10, but they pay £10 for just a small amount of clean piss.
Oh, yeah. Oh, excellent, great. So, Lisa, what is your wish for the future?
Oh,
you just want to carry on, don't you?
Yes, I just want to stay in my yurt forever. Carry on doing collages. I spoke to Graham about this a few days ago, but I'm feeling a little bit agoraphobic, actually. But my dad, he died 20 years ago, and he was 75 when he died, so would have been quite elderly now. He was quite old when he had me, and he was a submariner in the Second World War. And when he came out of the serving, he had agoraphobia for 4 years. It lasted 4 whole years, and he lived with his mum and dad. And he could not physically put his foot over the threshold of the front door. He was absolutely terrified of leaving the confines of his house. And it's kind of like, I've thought about that the other day, thinking I'm kind of, even though obviously I'm nipping out now and again, but not very often, I am feeling a little bit like I'm really enjoying the safety of my home space, and I'm a bit kind of like, sort of feeling like I don't really want to go anywhere, which is really interesting.
It is, isn't it? Yeah. So it's kind of a wish as well that things are acknowledged in the real world, that something has changed, because I feel a little bit now that it's almost, let's just all go back to how it was before. There's no acknowledgement in a way that we should do things differently, or we should have learned from what we've all experienced. It feels like that whole experience is now negated, and we should just all go out again, shop, and maybe have a couple of perspex barriers between us and some shop assistants, but the rest feels like pretty much we're pushed almost to act as if nothing has happened, So it's, I can understand that feeling of kind of wanting to kind of hold on to that safety and feeling of,
Have they called it Super Saturday or something?
Yeah.
Which is just absolutely off its head. I don't know. The notion, the idea of even going to a pub right now, I just can't get my head around it.
It's our Independence Day.
Yeah, well, hello. Yeah.
Right. Like when you say that about wanting to hold on to things, I think it'll come toppling down, because the 36 places already in a queue to be locked down. And so unless we listen to this experience somehow, in some way, surely it will come back to bite us.
How many people are washing their hands? I wonder.
Yeah, I even heard this thing about saying that they should increase unemployment benefits so that we can spend our way out of it. Which is just, well, it's lunacy, isn't it? We should all be in a year making collage.
Not together though, not together.
No.
2 meter gap in between.
And I don't use scissors. I want to rip. So I'm not,
Yeah.
I mean, in France, you are paid as an artist, as a working artist, aren't you? You get an income. You are paid that as salaried as an artist. Whether you're good, bad, or indifferent, if that's the career you choose to make work, you're paid a wage for that. And,
that's how it should be, and I think that's a true key to creativity and living your being an artist rather than having objectives and criteria that you need to fulfill. Create. That's great. Oh, Lisa, I have one burning question. Where is the hair from?
Right. It's my mum. It's quite complicated. We live about 5 years ago. Me and my husband sold our house. My mum and my mother-in-law we all moved in together, so we all live here. So I'm kind of I'm also shielding because Shirley is 87 and she's got Parkinson's, and it's her hair.
Okay.
So it's her actual hair that she had cut off. She had it cut off when she was about 14. Okay. And her mum never ever cut it, so it was never cut, and she's got really thick hair still now. And she absolutely hated it as a girl. She absolutely hated it and desperately wanted to have short hair. And so her mum finally caved in and let her have it cut off when she was about 13. And so it's her hair. So it's about 70, ish, sort of around that years old. And she did have one bit made into like a little hair piece.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That she could pin on the back of later on. But when I told Luke, Luke who I teach with, told Luke about it, he was like, "Oh, I love that collage with the hair," and he was like, "Where's the hair from?" And I told him, he was like, "Oh," he said, "I really wish you hadn't told me that." But the thing is it doesn't smell or anything. It smells really nice. It's just like freshly washed hair, but it's so old.
Amazing.
She was a champion. She was a world champion archer once.
Yes, she was. Yeah, she in the 90. I think it was 68 or something. She was the 4th best archer in the whole world in the Olympics.
Whoa.
So I used her in one of the collages that's on the still lives, actually, which is the archery one where she's aiming the bow at herself. So she so I used a black and white photograph. She asked, let me use that. So
I mean, she's made amazing. You made some brilliant videos and some great Super 8 films and great videos. Why don't you put those up on Instagram or somewhere to show them, even just a clip or something? Because it just seems a shame to have those great works not really being.
Yeah, I've got stills on Instagram. I'm not sure. I've only just started Instagram, as you know, and I've stayed away. I've not had a website or anything. Because I've always really liked making work, but then just showing it as it's meant to be seen in like a gallery sort of, or wherever it's meant to be site specific for, rather than putting it into flat screen, sort of put it on Instagram or on the internet so that it's kind of falls into all the rest of the moving image. I kind of liked that separation. But now I've started using Instagram. I might do that, to be honest. I've just not been confident enough to do that yet. I've put stills on, but not sort of put an actual the video on.
Is
But,
that kind of from listening to your flow? Is that in essence from, in terms of, I'm thinking about performance live art, and actually when I think about the Archer one, think about Marina Abramovich, but is there something, I maybe, because when you told, you know, from your studying through to, I mean, you've done film, you mentioned live art, performance art in there, and actually kind of in my headspace it makes sense what you've said, i.e., you know, you live that, you know, you experience that moment rather than it being
that's
that's an ongoing thing with a lot of artists that I've worked with over the years, especially a very close collaborator of mine who always, you know, he refused to have anything up. It's like, no, you've got to be there. And he's got his head around it now to a point where he's just got a mad, you know, he actually archived a load of stuff now in the last sort of 10 years. But I understand that bit, you know, that thing of experiential, you know, experience it there, then it's gone. You walk away with it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And also running to Instagram, I've got a very strange little dance that I have with Instagram, because I set up an Instagram quite a few years ago, and even though I'm a visual artist, you know, there's something that doesn't ring right with me. So I killed it just before I came to Hull. And then I've just recently, last couple of years, I've just put one up and just sort of left it. And, you know, I visit it now and again, but there's something about it. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on why. I don't, because everyone says to me all day long, that's yours, you know, that's your platform, Bun, that's what you do. But I don't know, there's something.
It is just, at the moment, it's the most direct way of absorbing art, isn't it, really? You know, especially now, going through this process, and that's where I think it's a platform, but I don't know, I feel.
Oh yeah, I'm not arguing with that at all, because it is. But then maybe it's that thing of us always giving away lots of things for free, because that's the way it is, you know, with the whole social platform. We know that anyway. You know, we have given away, we give away all this stuff for free. Just a thought.
Yeah. I know there's a big thing about that at the moment. It's difficult to, you know, an artist being paid comparative rates to all the professionals. I mean, I'm in a different position. You know, I make a living doing other things, so I don't really. But I like to give it away anyway. And I like it to be free. I don't really want to charge anybody for anything I make. I'd like to. But I'm in a pretty unique position, I suppose.
When I made free, it wasn't literally that thing of, you know, but it's not about it's not. I should have framed that better. So, for example, okay, so an artist by the name of Mark Wigan, and he, you know, he's got an Instagram, and actually, I think it was one of the, Dolce & Gabbana. They basically they saw something, took it, and it became, I think it was last year's, one of the last year's seasons, they actually put it on the catwalk, and it has his work blatantly ripped, taken from obviously what they'd seen there. And he's got an ongoing thing at the moment, but I'm just I don't know, it's just being mindful about, we can't put everything up there, and just, I totally hear what Lisa's saying, that thing of, you know, you might put a little snip, or you can't put I don't think to put everything up there. That's all.
I think, does that actually tie in a way to Graham's point about, for example, in France, artists get paid, you know, a basic income, let's say? Because I think a lot of the time and a lot of pressure on artists nowadays is to curate their own presence. You know, it's almost kind of, it's a shop window, isn't it? That's what it's kind of almost like, where you put your work, where people see what you do. So it actually kind of attracts other work. So it's kind of a bit of a really difficult balance to strike, isn't it? How much of yourself do you make available and visible for people to see what you do, versus how much do you just kind of create for your own sake? But I think it's because there's so much pressure to make a living and to kind of attract incoming funding opportunities, and it's all about engagement, and so it becomes really difficult. And I think it would be a different situation if, you know, artists would have an income and they could really just focus on their art and be in their shed and create for like 5 days at a time without worrying about, who sees their work. It's really tricky, but I understand as well. I mean, it must be, because people often unconsciously steal ideas as well, isn't it? It's just, people will see something and then they do something that's similar. So tricky, isn't it?
It is frustrating. It's happened to me quite a bit. It is frustrating when somebody takes something you've done and kind of, probably somebody who's got a higher status, but then they'll take stuff. But in a way, it's just a language, really. And it's much better to be all speaking a similar language, all sharing ideas and kind of perceptions, rather than being the only speaker of that language and kind of being insular, but keeping your ideas to yourself. Really, I just feel it's a
the moment
the world we're in is a creative sharing experience, really.
But the moment you see a big corporate brand actually literally lift a piece of your work, that's when
you can but you need a bit of backing to do it. But
is he getting some money off them though? Because I mean, a big brand, they have no excuse not to pay an artist, at least some kind of money, to be honest, isn't it?
He's got a lawyer involved, so it's ongoing. I'm due.
He's an illustrator.
He's an illustrator. Yeah, illustrator.
Yeah, he made the hat, Lisa, in the Arco Hard Hat Challenge. He made that hat that was on the advertising posters. Is that right? I think that's right.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask you, Lisa. I think you had another. You haven't really mentioned it, but another formative experience when you was at art college, which kind of came back to haunt you. Well, not haunt you, but it was such a coincidence, really, when you went to Romania.
Yeah, I kind of missed that out because that was quite an amazing experience. On my degree in the first year, I got a chance to go to, there was a group called Creative Aid for Romania, and it was actually set up by Bill Beach.
Really?
It was his. It's so weird because when I met him a couple of years ago through Graham, I mentioned that I went to Romania, and he went, "Oh, that was my creation. It was he did that from Brighton."
Oh wow!
So like Barney saying, he just takes credit for everything that goes on, doesn't he? Whatever's going on.
No, he actually.
That was my idea.
I know. Yeah. He was the one in charge of it all. It was Wolverhampton Art School, Brighton and Sheffield, and all three colleges, or all three universities got a group of students, and we all travelled. The two vans, we took two minibuses, and they picked us all up, and then we drove to Romania, all of us crammed in the back of this bus, and it took 10 hours a day for 5 days to get there. So we drove through all the countries. And we stayed in Romania for a month at a time and painted murals. We stayed in the orphanages and the psychiatric hospitals, and we painted murals on the actual walls of the orphanages. So instead of so that they couldn't be taken off the walls, because a lot of the aid that got sent over there got taken off the children and sold on the black market for the directors of the homes and things. So the children never really saw a lot of the stuff that was going over. Like, we experienced some horrendous things when we were there. Like there was a huge lorry load of brand new Nike white trainers, brand new in boxes that had been donated, and this was in 1991. And the lorry driver came into it was a girls' school that we were staying in. Mentally and physically handicapped girls. They came into the school. They got loads of the white trainers out of the boxes. The lorry driver they put them onto loads of the girls and then photographed them so that they had documentation of giving these trainers to the girls. They all waved the lorry off, and then as soon as the lorry had gone, the director of the place took all the trainers back off the children, put them back in the boxes, and then they were sold for money. So it was just a complete farce, and a lot of the Blue Peter sent loads of games and toys over, and they were all kept in a locked room behind glass, and a lot of the jigsaws were actually pinned on the walls, like they were paintings, so they were never opened. And we said to the director, why can't the children go in that room and play with those toys? And they said, no, they're too good for the children. No, they will ruin them. They're not allowed in there. And we were like, what? So it was like really bizarre things. And I went twice in that year, for 2 periods of time, and I then signed up to go to India to work with the Mother Teresa co-workers that same year, and I got my jabs and everything to go, and I was in the first year of my degree, and then I sort of thought I should really finish my degree, and that was when I just swapped, and then got back into my work and then just knuckled down, and then that was it. I didn't ever, it was something that I just, and you have a signpost in your life and you think, which way am I going to go? Because if I'd gone that way, I probably would never have finished my degree and just probably still been out there.
I also wonder as well.
That's interesting, actually, because something I just noted down when you talked about your story, and it's something that occurred to me the other day. Do you feel like you kind of followed the call of your heart in a way? Because you said, school kind of wasn't your thing, but then you seem to have found art and this path, and it feels like, was that for you a call of the heart? And again, this decision there, I don't know, do you?
Yeah, it is. I always work with my intuition, and I always work with the gut feeling of what I should do. But art definitely was the only thing that I wanted to do when I was younger, really, was kind of creative fashion art kind of area. So, and I was always drawing when I was little, just constantly drawing. And I think that, like I always say to the lads, like I said last week, I think, the more that you do something, the better that you get at it. And I think if a child does draw, then they're obviously they're getting experience and practice, and they're getting better and better. And then, I just think some people say, oh, I can't draw, I'm not going to, and that's it. Then they don't draw, and they're never going to get any better, because, but I think that there is, when people say, oh, they're really brilliant at drawing, they're naturally gifted, it's just a load of rubbish, because it's really just, if you can do anything if you set your mind to it and do it repeatedly, then you can become good at anything, I think.
Thank you, excellent. Sorry, Graham, I think you were saying something as well.
I can't remember now. I can't remember what I was going to say.
I was going to say, Lisa, you mentioned Sheffield, because you were there for quite a while. You were there for 8
years, yeah.
Yeah, and Sheffield's always been close to my heart, because my grandparents, when they came from Jamaica, that's where they went first, and they moved to Bristol at some point. But so what I was going to get back to Sheffield was because it's always had a really good bit. It's being the music scene there, obviously. Without going into it, on ongoing, and its creative art scene has always been really strong, I felt. And someone like, have you ever come across Kid Acne? Kid Acne? He was a street-based artist there in the mid-90s through till now, makes music. And
I'm not sure, no.
Kid Acne, brilliant. But there's a whole load of them there. It's really, really worth it. It's always worth connecting, keeping those connections. I don't know if you were able to reconnect. I don't know if you keep, Sheffield.
Most, I do know one person, one of my friends still lives in Sheffield, but most of the people that I was with all ended up moving to London, and then a lot to Berlin, actually. A lot from Sheffield ended up in the Berlin art scene, which a lot of them are still there. But yeah, they did. I stayed probably the longest out of our group before I moved down to London. But yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, that people do move away from cities when they're. I love Sheffield. The people are absolutely brilliant. I mean, my dad, my mum and dad are both from Sheffield. They were both born in Sheffield, so it's and my grandma lived there. So when we were in Denby Dale, West Yorkshire, when I was brought up, and we went over to Sheffield every weekend to see my grandma. So I do love it there.
I just remembered what I was going to ask you was thinking about that experience in Romania. Do you think that had any kind of, do you think it affected you? You've worked in the prison, you think that's what made you gravitate towards the prison works? I mean, that is, we think we're in a lockdown, and look at the Romanian orphanages. I mean, that is just hell on earth, really. It's just an unbelievable situation. I just wonder if you ever thought of it like that, like the kind of thing you're doing now is a similar, similar kind of thing.
Well, it is really. I mean, that was Creative Aid for Romania. We went in and we worked with the kids they helped us, and they designed what they wanted behind their beds and things, and it was amazing experience, and it is quite similar in a way. Yeah,
it's exactly the same, really, isn't it? Exactly the same.
It is.
Interesting. Excellent. Well, we're running out of time again, so I was just wondering whether there's any other questions for Lisa or anybody else.
I've got a question for Lisa. It's just something that came into my head, and it probably isn't, but when you make the collages, Lisa, everything's coming together kind of on the plane, on the page, your bits from different places. I just wondered whether you'd ever gone that way through a magazine, so to create different layers away from you, if that makes sense. So cutting out something and having whatever's in the page underneath, or the page underneath. So instead of it being a kind of two-dimensional thing, it becomes three-dimensional. I don't know why it popped into my head, but it popped into my head.
No, I haven't really worked in that way. It's interesting because when I've been cutting all these I've been cutting the skin off these models, and I always end up with this pile of like legs and arms and faces next to the, so that is an interesting thing. Although at this moment in time, I was more interested in this bit of the collage. I have thought about that, but I'm not quite sure, because I do see, especially on Instagram now, tons of amazing collage artists out there, but a lot of the collages are quite disparate, and a lot of them are lots of bits of things all come together, and for me it feels quite, I like to keep it so that the idea is really kind of sort of meshed in with quite simple ideas.
Yeah.
I think with any language, any creative language, I think, minimal impact creates, minimal intervention creates maximum impact. So I think the simpler you can make anything, really reduce it down rather than have an explosion of disparate things. Just really, really isolate things and pare it all down. So it's a very crisp, very clear message and very clear image. That's what I like. I think that's what I like to see collage made in that way. I think it's interesting what you can use the reverse side of whatever piece of paper you're using, just turn it over and flip it. Because a magazine is a collection of collages anyway, So I'm interested in the whole idea of that, the way you salvage your material from, really.
I suppose I was thinking that your thing, I have seen lots of them, but I've seen a few of them. They're chosen, but if you cut away and whatever happens to be underneath, you allow some chance or so it was just a thought that came into my head. And the other thing that people have been talking about is pay and artist pay, which would be good. But if there was UBI, we could all be paid, everyone could be creative, everyone could take some risks and have some time to experiment. So that's my addition to that.
It's true. I'm very conscious I think we're going to get cut off any moment. Shall we just quickly reconnect to be able to say and close the meeting properly? So it's going to cut off.
Have I frozen? Has everyone else frozen?
I don't know. I think you're the only one. But I'll end the meeting now, and let's just reconnect, yeah? And then we'll kind of just can close it properly, yeah?
Okay.